What do you know about South Slavic mythology? In the last couple of years, Slavic mythology became a popular topic in fiction thanks to the Witcher saga and the Winter Night trilogy. These pieces of fiction, however, mainly represent East and West Slavic countries like Poland and Russia, but South Slavic mythology, folklore and culture remain undiscovered. In this video, I will dive into this exact topic, unveiling the gods, the characters and the creepy creatures you can encounter in the mythology of South Slavic countries. So prepare to learn about a side of Slavic mythology you have never heard of before. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Anna, the Transylvanian villager, and I make videos about random topics related to Central and Eastern Europe, because I feel there's not enough content about it online. So if you're into that, hit that subscribe button and tap the little notification bell. Today I talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, South Slavic mythology. Now I always have a hard time finding images about this topic, so I generated some with AI, which turned out pretty good if you don't count the fingers. But before we dive into it, let's quickly clarify who are the South Slavs. Slavs or Slavic people are a group of related folks spread across Central, Eastern and Southeastern Europe. But it's important to note that not every Central and Eastern European country is Slavic. The early Slavs started settling in Europe during the early Middle Ages, and by the 6th and 7th centuries they were in control of large parts of the region. You can divide Slavs into three main groups: East, West and South Slavs. The South Slavs come from early Slavic tribes that mixed with local Proto-Balkanic tribes, Celts, Romans and later with East Germany, Asiatic and Caucasian tribes. Today's South Slavic countries are Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Montenegro and Bulgaria. Most South Slavs were influenced by the Byzantine Empire and the Orthodox Church, then later by the Ottoman Empire. Meanwhile, the Western Roman Empire and the Catholic Church had more influence on Slovenes and Croats. The most popular things people know about South Slavic countries are commie blocks, genocide and alcoholism, but I have to clarify one misconception. Not all Eastern Europeans are alcoholics. We only drink when we have political problems.
It's funny because it's true.
So without further ado, let's dissect this topic. Before they switched to Christianity, the ancient Slavs were pagans and passed down their stories mostly by word of mouth. That's why we don't have many written records about it today. Slavic paganism changed over the centuries, hitting its peak in the Middle Ages from the 6th century until Christianization, which varied among different Slavic groups, but mostly finished by the 13th century. We know about ancient Slavic beliefs from a few vague written records noted by outsiders like Byzantine and Roman writers. However, not all Slavic groups are documented. Most of what we know about Slavic religion focuses on East and Baltic Slavs, with only patchy information about other groups. It's especially hard to piece together the belief of the South Slavs from written sources, which are pretty fragmentary. The other problem is that during the Christianization period, authorities banned and restricted Slavic pagan beliefs and erased historical records related to this topic. Despite the cultural shift and lack of written records, many elements of Slavic paganism survived, kept alive in tales, legends, folk art, songs and cultural practices. Some ancient traditions even blended into Christian practices, mixing parts of paganism into the new faith. So pagan festivals and traditions turned into Christian ones, like the Epiphany ice bath, winter caroling traditions and St. John's Day. Some Christian saints even took on attributes of Slavic gods and are worshipped in a similar way. Later, under the Ottoman Empire's influence, some South Slavic countries converted to Islam, further distancing themselves from the old pagan faith. Despite the differences between Orthodox, Catholic and Muslim beliefs and religious practices, South Slavic countries still maintain a common cultural aesthetic that originates from pagan times, and they only try to exterminate each other over religion once every 10 years.
Girls discussing religion. Boys discussing religion.
In short, despite the cultural shift, the surviving ancient customs, tales and folk beliefs provide deep insights into the worldview of South Slavic paganism, explaining how everything started, who started it, and how life works. It's difficult to distinguish how the world's creation was described in different Slavic subgroups, but for this segment we can examine the general creation story of Slavic mythology. In the beginning, there was just darkness and chaos. Darkness covered a golden egg, symbolizing new life, where Rod, the ancestor of all Slavic gods and creation, was fast asleep. Rod rested in the primordial chaos, waiting to get strong enough to create the world. From the cosmic egg, boom, the world appeared. The upper half of the shell became the heavens, and the lower half became the earth. He divided the universe into three parts: Prav, where the gods hang out; Yav, where we live; and Nav, the underworld. When the eggs cracked open, light flooded in, revealing the divine trio of Svarog, Perun, and Veles. Svarog and Veles teamed up to make the earth. Svarog shaped the land from stone, while Veles filled it with rivers, lakes, and seas. The waters were special, symbolizing life and mystery, and became the birthplace of several gods. Humans were born from the remnants of the egg and eventually took over the world. They grew crops, raised animals, built cities, and pushed mythical creatures into the wild. According to some myths, the fate of the universe depends on a big showdown between the gods of light and darkness, causing chaos and destruction. Basically, a huge fire will end the world, sparked by the dark god Chernbog's evil forces, wiping out everything: the earth, the heavens, and all living things. After that, Rod will pop out of chaos to create a new world, and the cycle will repeat itself. Basically, it's like the Dark Souls lore. The mythology of Central Bosnia and Herzegovina has a unique element which is worth mentioning, and that is Tur, a giant bull carrying the earth on its back, kind of like the Hujata in Islamic lore or the world elephant. Legends say that earthquakes happen when Tur moves his horns, and people believe that if Tur shifts his whole body, it's a sign of the apocalypse, because horny males are always up to no good. Now let's dig into the details of some South Slavic gods. Reconstructing the Slavic pantheon is tough because there isn't a clear, unified system of gods and goddesses across all Slavic tribes. Different Slavic groups see their gods differently, they worship different ones and have all kinds of beliefs about them. But it's also tricky to figure out which gods were worshipped in each region, so I only talk about the ones which are referenced in the folklore, vocabulary, and location names of South Slavic regions. Rod is the god of creation and destiny. He is often accompanied by unseen female prophets called who shape newborn's fate. The name Rod comes from the word birth or kinship in different South Slavic languages, for example the Serbo-Croatian rođenje or the Bulgarian raždane. In Slavic myths, Rod shows up as the world's creator. He emerged from an egg, separated light from darkness, and formed the earth, the moon, the sun, and other planets. Like every Slavic craftsman, he probably took a shot of rakia between each step of his work, which is probably why evolution took millions of years. Some see him as the most important god in Slavic mythology, others see him as a spirit or another mythical figure instead of a god. As the world's creator, Rod might be more of an idea than a specific god, and this makes it hard to trace or even confirm his place in Slavic religion. Perun is the god of the sky, thunder, and lightning, kind of like Thor and Odin from Norse myths and Zeus from Greek myths. His name comes from ancient roots, meaning to hit or to strike, showing he's all about powerful thunder. Some Slavic stories talk about an oak tree akin to the tree of life, and they say that its top branches are the heavens, the trunk and lower branches are where people live, and the roots are the underworld. In these tales, Perun hangs out in the highest branches of that oak tree, and from there he can keep an eye on everything happening down below. That's why they used to build shrines and temples for Perun up high, like on mountain tops and in oak groves, where he was represented by different statues. Sadly, during the Christianization era, Christians went on and smashed Perun's statues, but his name still sticks around in South Slavic place names because lots of mountains, cities, and plants are named after him. Svarog is a sun god known for his metalworking and craftiness. People often compare him to the Greek god Hephaestus, and although he was a hit mostly in West Slavic areas, some scholars argue that he originates from Bulgarian beliefs. Mythologists also argue over whether Svarog or Perun was the top god among the Slavs. Some even think they might be the same dude. Either way, according to legend, Svarog is asleep and his dreams create the world of humans. If Svarog were to wake up, the whole human world would collapse.
Just 5 more minutes.
No.
Then fuck off.
Dashbog, Svarog's son, is the god of the sun, the earth, and a protector of homes. He makes sure we stay warm during winter by keeping the fireplaces alive. Dashbog is all about stuff we need to survive, and he's connected to fire and rain and embodies the dual nature of the flames, which is warmth and destruction. His name means the giving god, referencing the Proto-Slavic word dati, which means to give. He's also all about making sure that we have plenty of crops and good times surviving the winter. Veles rules over the underworld, magic, and chaos. He often appears as a serpent climbing a sacred tree towards Perun's domain, and in some stories, Veles is a trickster deity who steals Perun's wife or children and takes them to the darkest corners of the underworld. And no, I'm not talking about Kosovo. However, seeing Veles only in a negative light is too simplistic. Just like other gods, he has many roles and is associated with water, cattle, wealth, poetry, and oaths. But some ancient texts describe Veles as a counterpart of Perun, suggesting they had rivalry. Worshipping opposing gods reflects the Indo-European belief in balancing order with chaos, light with darkness, and life with death. While Perun isn't purely good and Veles isn't purely evil, in later Christian times, some equated Perun with the Christian god and Veles with the devil. Many places in Macedonia, Bosnia, Serbia, and Montenegro are named Veles, supposedly in honor of this deity. Speaking of Perun's wife, folks believe Dodola is the goddess of rain. They say she makes it rain by milking the sky and the clouds, and in springtime, they say Dodola flies over fields and forests. She is out there decorating trees with fruits and blossoms, and she is quite significant in ancient Balkan pagan traditions. The old celebration of Dodola includes young girls wearing skirts made of green vines and branches, singing and dancing through the village while people sprinkle water on them. This symbolizes the return of life in spring, making sure things are fertile and fruitful. Mokos is a mother goddess and the protector of women who looks after childbirth and traditional household tasks like spinning and cooking. She is what the kids these days would call a girl's girl. As a Mother Earth type goddess, she represents fertility, fate, harvest, rain, and all that stuff. Besides the usual chores, Mokos takes care of sheep, bees, wool, and flax, and she is connected to farming and craftsmanship. Mokos was honored with altars shaped like large breast-like stones.
I am the god of chits and wine.
Though she is more popular in East Slavic regions, villages and hills across Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina are named Makoshe or Mukushina, so some folklorists think they were named after her. Yarilo is the god of spring, agriculture, and fertility. He symbolizes nature bouncing back after winter, bringing in good crops and prosperity for farming. He is usually described as a young, good-looking fella riding a white horse, and according to legends, Perun and Dodola are his parents. Veles snatched him away when he was just a baby and raised him in the underworld. When Yarilo returned in spring, he fell for his sister Morana, Alabama style. The stories say he tragically died because of cheating on her or because of family conflicts, and Morana's grief triggered winter and death. But with every new year, both Yarilo and Morana get a fresh start. They are reborn, showing how life keeps going in this never-ending cycle of renewal. Morana, also known as Morena, Mora, and Marjana in different languages, is the goddess of winter, death, and the earth's seasonal decline. Slavs aren't too fond of her because winter means cold, darkness, sickness, and food shortages, and in some regions they even make an effigy of her and burn or drown it. But that is more popular in East and West Slavic regions. When spring comes, people celebrate, and Vesna, the goddess of renewal, steps in for Morana. Vesna, the goddess of nature's renewal and youth, presents herself as a beautiful figure, but some mythologists claim that she's just another form of Mokos. Celebrations dedicated to Vesna mark the victory of spring over winter. She's linked with springtime rituals in rural areas, which blended into Christian holidays over time. For example, on the day of Svetnica or Palm Sunday, Croatians wash their faces with flowers and plants on Sunday before Easter, symbolizing spring, youth, and new life, which is pretty wholesome because in my village we just use Palm Sunday as another excuse to get drunk. Vesna is especially honored in present-day Croatia, Serbia, North Macedonia, and Slovenia. Her name became popular in South Slavic countries. For example, in Slovenian, Vesna means spring, and in Serbian, the male equivalent of the name, Vesnik, refers to someone who brings springtime. Svetovid is often shown with 4 heads and a drinking horn, which symbolizes his strength and spiritual power as the god of abundance and war. He is described with distinct hair and mustaches that were in style back in those days. At Svetovid's temple, they had rituals to predict war outcomes and to prepare for battle. While he is mostly known in West Slavic mythology, some sources sources say that people also worshipped him in Serbia and Croatia.
O all God, help a poor wretch in need. Pretty please.
Historians argue over whether the traditions of Vidovdan is about Saint Vitus or this deity. Some historical records even mix these two figures in the South Slavic context. Crnobog and Belobog are controversial gods. Some sources say that these gods represent light and darkness, and they may or may not be the two gods which will start the end of the world. Crnobog, the black god, shows up in some chronicles as a god of misfortune, while Belobog, the white god, is thought to be his opposite. But some scholars think they are more like pseudo-gods, metaphors, or just an influence of Christian beliefs representing the Christian god and devil. So these are the gods of South Slavic mythology. Other than the many gods and goddesses, the ancient Slavs believed in many supernatural beings that existed in nature. These creatures come in various forms, and the same name of any single being can be spelled or transliterated differently according to language and transliteration systems. Since there are so many of them, I split them into three main categories: humanoids, spirits, and monsters, like a Witcher bestiary.
Damn, you're ugly.
So let's check them out.
Stop right there!
I just found out that some of you regularly watch my videos but aren't actually subscribed.
Why? 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 Why?
Subscribe. Slavic myths often center around the struggle between good and evil, where the evil is often represented by different human-like characters with nefarious intentions. However, many of these characters fall into the category of grey morality, transitioning between roles of good and evil. Sometimes these need to be defeated, other times they aid the heroes, so let's see how many of these are you familiar with. Baba Yaga is the most well-known character of Slavic folklore, especially in East Slavic countries and in Bulgaria. She's the kind of witch who scares the pants off people, sometimes even munching on kids and having a blast with her wicked spells, almost like your Balkan grandma when you tell her that you're not hungry. You often catch her zipping around on a mortar or broomstick, getting up to all sorts of mischief, and her crib, well, it's in the woods with hooves on the door and a thatched roof. Some tales even say her hut's perched on chicken legs. While she usually gets the bad rap, some stories have her throwing down challenges and sharing nuggets of wisdom. Similarly, in Serbo-Croatian lore, there's Baba Yaga, a horned old lady who gives naughty kids a good scare. She lives in a cave or a cozy forest shack, and sometimes she lends a helping hand in a few tales. In Bulgarian and Macedonian mythology, there's a trio of female creatures called Orisnizi. They travel together and visit the homes of newborns to predict what lies ahead for them in the future. The first one is like a young woman around 16 and 20 years old, embodying youth. The second one is in her prime, roughly 25-30 years old, and the third one is older, beyond 35, symbolizing wisdom and maturity. They are similar to what Rhodes' unseen female prophets, Stucenici, are, or even the Romanian Ursitare. Narečnici are the more sinister versions of Orisnizi. They have the power to predict what's in store for a newborn baby, but people usually portray them as three women who show up on the third night after a child is born and describes them as three sisters, one who is good and two who are not so good. The youngest sister usually undoes the curses that the older parents cast. In Serbo-Croatian folklore, fairies are called vile. Stories often describe them as beautiful young women with long blonde or white hair, and they usually wear white robes and sometimes even have animal hooves instead of legs. In some stories, vile wear veils over their faces, which is used for flying. They also like to wear wreaths made of flowers and leaves, and they are famous for dancing in circle or playing flutes in the forest. If they bump into people during these dances, they might just turn them into rocks or trees, or maybe they just infected them with epidermis dysplasia vericiformis. Yes, there's a real sickness which can turn you into a tree. These mysterious beings prefer quiet spots like forests near water or up in the mountains. They come out at night and sometimes have fun with shepherds by taking their horses for joyrides. According to Croatian myths, the vile raised Krsnik, teaching him medicine and magic, so he became a witcher-like fellow. He went on to battle vampires, werewolves and evil spirits while healing people and animals. Krsnik had magical powers like astral projection, which let his spirit roam as an animal while his body stayed put. In other tales, people saw Krsnik as linked to the sun, sky, fire, storms and fertility, and in newer stories, folks often portray Krsniks as good-hearted spirits or courageous heroes. After Christianity took hold, they say Krsnik learned magic at the School of Black Magic in Babylon, yet he kept his rep as a protector of the poor. The name Krsnik might come from Krst, meaning cross, but some say it's tied to Urskrsite, which means resurrector. In Bulgarian mythology, Samodivas, also known as Samovilas, are enchanting nymphs who live near lakes and rivers. Tales usually describe them with long, flowing hair, wearing feathered white gowns that let them fly. Sometimes they even have wings and wings, and these nymphs absolutely love singing and dancing. They are closely connected to nature and know a lot about healing plants. People often link them to things like sickness and whirlwinds. Men fall in love with them right away, while women are just amazed by their beauty. According to legend, if they lose their will, they lose their power, so if you ever see a Samodiva at the Lost and Found, you'll know why. In Macedonian folklore, Samovilas can either heal or hurt. They can enter the hearts of men and stay there for 5 years, and their goal is to join with the man's soul to ascend to the heavens together. They usually give men magical powers and the knowledge of healing plants, but you can beat them by making them prick themselves on thorned bushes. People believe that Samodivas are daughters of a creature called Lamia, but more on that later. Božja Vučica, or god she-wolf, is a legend from northern Croatian folklore about a female wolf who can turn into a beautiful young woman by shedding her wolf skin. According to the tale, a young man hides her wolf skin while she is in human form, and this leads her to marry him, and they have a child together. Eventually she finds her skin again and returns to the forest as a wolf. The young man bravely ventures into the forest with the help of a shepherd, and he finds his wife among the wolves.
Find yourself a comely wife, wolf.
This transforms her back into a human, securing their happy ending. Devia Dekle, also known as forest women, are female creatures from northern Croatia, and they are described as short, naked and hairy beings who live in forests just like me. They communicate through screams, cries and other sounds instead of using human speech. They tend to avoid humans most of the time, but every now and then, especially in winter when they are hungry, they might wander near villages to sneak into barns and houses. Čatež, a creature from Slovenian folklore, lives in forests and swamps, and people describe him as a dwarf with a strange look, half old man with a beard and half goat. When treated nicely, Čatež helps folks out. He shows them where to find water or lends a hand to lumberjacks, but if you treat him poorly, Čatež gets upset and he throws rocks at houses or trick people into the woods, tickling them until they can't take it anymore. Legends also say that Čatež sneak into vineyards, they steal grapes and get drunk. According to my Instagram followers, however, this is a real character who likes to pretend to be a quirky philosopher nowadays.
I'm coming from Balkan. I can be extremely brutal.
So these are the creatures from South Slavic mythology, which take on a human-like appearance. However, some of them don't have human bodies and they appear as spirits, demons, or other abstract forms. The darker side of Slavic folklore includes some horrendous creatures that live in the chilling depths of Southeastern European mythology, who are malevolent spirits that have haunted the imagination of generations. From the misty woods to the darkest corners of the night, these sinister entities have been whispered about for centuries in both villages and cities. So, what are those? Hala is a female demonic entity that people see differently depending on who meets her. Some think she's bad news because she brings hailstorms and wrecks crops. Sometimes she even steals those crops instead of just trashing them. Hala is famous for being super hungry. Folks say that she eats kids and goes after the sun and the moon when she's really starving, supposedly causing eclipses, like the Vurkolak in Romanian mythology. On the flip side, if you run into Hala in the woods and treat her with respect and trust, good things could happen to you. Stories say being nice to Hala can bring some good luck and maybe even some wealth. Bela Žena is a ghostly figure from Slovenian and Northern Croatian mythology. Her name means white woman.
Calm down? What I'd like you to do is apologize instead of being a bitch.
She shows up in a long white dress and veil floating above the ground, and she is described as slim and about 2 meters tall. She is known for appearing before wars and big tragedies, and they say she predicted events like the 2 world wars and the Croatian homeland war. Mrak, meaning darkness, is a creepy spirit from Croatia and Slovenia. It can show up as an animal, a shapeless shadow, or a bearded guy in a wide-brimmed hat. It goes after people at crossroads or in their homes, and it can make the ladies get run random bruises and have a fever, while the gens affected by Gurak feel all disoriented and dizzy, making them wander around aimlessly. These effects can be deadly without help from local witches and sorcerers, and to protect themselves, people recite poems or use garlic and rosaries. Peta in Slovenian folklore is a female demon known for her mixed behavior, sometimes doing good things and sometimes being malicious, like a Slavic mom with a pair of slippers. Her influence is strongest during winter and between Christmas and Epiphany, and that's when she guides the souls of dead children. Domovoys are household spirits who appear as elderly men with grey hair and bright eyes, often hanging out in basements or attics. To keep domovoys happy, families usually leave offerings like bread, sheep wool, or shiny objects for them. These spirits watch over homes, keeping them safe from things like theft and fire, and they also look after children and animals. But if you mistreat them, they might bring curses upon your household. Mora is an evil spirit who sneaks up on people while they sleep, draining their life energy and making it hard to breathe. She is sometimes described as a dark shadow of a woman who sneaks into homes through keyholes and sits on people's chests while they are sleeping. If you wake up with sleep lines on your face, that's a sign Mora paid you a visit during the night. People use tricks to protect themselves from her. They paint symbols on their doors, wear clothes inside out, and keep garlic and holy water at hand. Posvečari are ethereal floating flames that you might see in swamps, rivers, or other watery places. They are believed to be the souls of unbaptized children who passed away early on, or others who couldn't make it to heaven or hell and they got stuck wandering around forever. This legend might have a scientific side to it as well. These floating flames could be caused by pockets of natural gas or swamp gas coming up from the ground and catching fire on their own. That could explain why so many people have reported seeing them. Chuma represents the plague or black death who carries all kinds of diseases. People usually describe her as a scary old woman with wild hair and big eyes. In Serbian stories, she carries a clay bowl and arrows and she uses these to kill people at night. Now, I'm not saying that she's real, but the Serbian dancing lady and COVID appeared around the same time, so coincidence? I don't think so. Bauk is a creepy creature who likes to hang out in dark, abandoned places like old houses or barns, and this creature preys on people who wander by. It's always dangerous to encounter them because they are always looking to cause harm. Luckily, light and loud noises can scare Bauk away, so having a flashlight can be a real lifesaver if you ever run into one. But enough about the spooky, let's talk about the scary. South Slavic mythology is home to a fascinating array of ugly beasts. Although this seems similar to generic European folklore characters like dragons and giants, their stories and descriptions have some interesting twists and turns. In Croatian legends, the Vedi are described as giants with long hair that reach over houses. These giants are incredibly strong, they can uproot trees and carry heavy loads, and their massive chests can even stir up storms when they blow air. When the Vedis speak or sing, their voices echo far and wide. They made their homes deep in the forests where they built towns and live in tribes. According to stories, some of these giants were pretty mean. They would capture and torment people in their villages before finally letting them go. But on the other hand, some were kind-hearted and helped out around households with the chores. Vukavats are creepy creatures that hang out near water, similar to the drowners in The Witcher. If you get too close, they'll drag you right in. So picture this thing with 6 legs, slimy skin, big horns, and gaping mouth, and a long tail. It's like a 6-legged monster with these bright blue eyes that stare right through you. At night, Vukavats comes out of lakes and pools, making loud noises, and their name actually comes from Vuka, which means noise. It jumps on people and animals and tries to strangle them, which is funny because with all that noise you would think that they are terrible at hide and seek. Drekavac is a mythical creature named after the verb drechati, meaning to screech, much like the strigoi in Romanian mythology. It appears in different forms across various regions. Some places believe it's an undead man who rises from graves to haunt the living. In other areas it's thought to be an unbaptized child that brings torment to its parents. In different regions of Serbia it is seen as a humanoid canine, while in other places it's described in the form of ghostly soldiers. creatures. Other depictions include a vampire-like figure, a long-necked creature with a cat-like head, a one-legged humanoid with glowing eyes, and even an elongated creature resembling a child's soul. Modern interpretations compare it to a creature resembling either a canine or a bird. Beliefs about Drekavac connected to the souls of sinful people who passed away or the spirits of unbaptized children. Sightings usually happen at night, especially during the 12 days of Christmas or in early spring. Its forms are linked with predicting death or disease, and it tends to avoid dogs and bright light. Vodeniak, also known as the water creature, usually hangs out in rivers, swamps, and creeks. It likes to show up as a green humanoid with fur or twig-like skin, and when it decides to step out of water, it can transform into a guy dressed in green clothes. Their wives, the Vodenkinye, start off as these not so pretty green beings, but they have this knack for transforming into beautiful women to learn unsuspecting folks near water. Once the victim gets close enough, the female Vodeniak doesn't play nice. She drags people down into the water and traps their souls in clay pots and turns them into servants. In Bulgarian and North Macedonian folklore, the Lamia is portrayed as a female dragon with either 3 or 9 dog-like heads. It has long, sharp teeth, yellow scales, and sometimes even webbed wings and razor-sharp claws. Unlike your typical dragons, Lamias don't usually go after people directly. Instead, they like to make folks bring them food and sacrifices. But how? Well, by stopping rivers and causing drought, which they only fix if you give them what they want. Heroes and brave warriors have tried to take down Lamias in the past, but guess what? Those multiple heads make it a real challenge. You gotta chop off all of them at once to stand a chance. Lamias are all about water, they are practically aquatic creatures, and they are believed to hang out in watery places, which adds to their mysterious lore. And as I said earlier, some stories claim that the Lamia is the mother of the Samodivas. Possibly the most influential character in Eastern European folklore is this May, which has many different depictions from evil wizards to fire-breathing dragons. In some stories they are good, and in other stories they are the villains. In Bulgarian mythology, they are described as fire-breathing male dragons, and they are guardians of families and crops, handling all sorts of weather stuff like winds, rain, sunlight, hails, and storms. But despite their kindness towards us humans, some folks have been known to hunt them down because they think that munching on their hearts will give you superpowers. Talk about a wild diet plan. Now, in Macedonian folklore, these May are a bit different. They are sort of like these humanoid creatures, like the East Slavic Zmej or the Romanian Zmeu, and they've got snake tails, golden wings, and they're pretty strong. They live in caves up on mountains, and they are said to be pretty damn smart. They also got a thing for beauty, especially in the ladies, and legend has it that they might even snatch up young women and whisk them away to their hidden dens. So yeah, that's all I have about South Slavic mythology today. South Slavic countries are an interesting and diverse place, full of fascinating culture, folklore, and mythology, which most people don't really know much about. However, this region can offer much more to people interested in its lore. The vast and diverse culture changes from region to region and even town to town, offering vast beauty and complexity. So I hope that in this video I managed to convince you that South Slavic mythology is astonishing yet underrated, and it deserves more attention. If you want to read some Witcher-style books that dwell into this topic, you should check out Black Blossom and A Town Called River. But enough about my opinions. If you made it this far into the video, you are the real MVP, so here's some sweets for you. Comment thanks for the papanash to confuse the new viewers. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content about Central and Eastern Europe, check out my other videos. And subscribe or the copper dick owl will grate you. Thanks for tuning in and have a nice day.